Okay, so this is crashing. I was playing around with it, so I had it back on release build. There's a problem with the clipping, and I'm going to try and get the problem to show itself in a simple example. This will render. I'll take the recursions down to 8, and I'll take the recursions here down to 4 because it's running very slowly. Let me see. High 500. I could just quickly render this to show that this one will work. I'm pretty sure. I'll save over the cursor image. Two and a bit seconds to draw that with the debugger on. And also I did notice that running doing the video capture very much slows this down. Okay, pretty dim, could use a lower threshold for that, but it works. Now, I can force it to crash here, but I want to make things simpler first. So, I'm going to remove spots. And I'm just going to do that and say static. Save. Do it. Instantly array index out of range. This is good news in a way, because previously where was the array index out of range? Right here. Now this is good news. Yeah, previously this would just have worked, wouldn't it? Like I did many tests where effectively I was drawing this sort of thing. Isn't that right? Yeah, I clicked static and I got an output. Right, I'm going to just run it again. Oops. Oh, I got a little thing there. That's nice. I'm going to run it again. This time I'm going to simplify my render, and I'm going to, oh me, no. Sorry, this time I'm going to simplify my render first, then I'm going to quit, just so that I've got okay. As of here, give me another go. Something that comes to my mind is that I was using totally regular 10 by 10 outputs before, or 25 by 25. Under those circumstances, sure, worked every time. Okay. Something I'm weirdly aware of is that I did do that sort of thing. Instant crash again. This is not making me sad, this is making me happy. So, what's the next sort of, the first thing I can do is I can get it to spit out this little piece of information. And I can give it another go. This will be written once for each line, and if the first pixel is true. In this situation it's come on off the bottom of the screen, and I know that because one end of the line is on screen and the other is off. If I pop this off, click static, click save, OK, crash, data offset just off the end, basically, of the array, because the array is of size that 1920 by 1080, 2,073,600, and this is 2,074,800. I want to be able to get that in there straight away, but anyway. What do I really want to do? I want to do 74,835 minus 2,073,600. 1,235. No idea what the significance of that is. Nope, I'm just thinking in my brain it's an odd number. Right. Sorry, I'm just thinking that. Let me have a little look here. So it's crashed inside drawing first pixel. It's decided that first pixel is this, and I guess what I will get, or I will also request of it, is X and Y and OWI. Tedium. OX plus string of OX plus OY plus string of OY plus OIW plus string of OWI, sorry. Okay. Have another go and let me just, oops. Just don't bother just yet. Just to make it readable. Why is it having a problem now when I really am so sure it didn't before? Did I just never check this particular thing of it being... Oh, I should check some other things as well. Well, I think... let me just see. Thanks. $10.80. 1101 plus. See that 1101 looks about right, and the OY at 1080 is kind of right, except it isn't, is it? It isn't. I think that this thing of adding that is coming back to bite me. I wonder if it was okay down around small numbers, but is no good up around 1,000 plus numbers. I really don't like that. I bet, I say I shouldn't guess like this, but it just wouldn't surprise me. What did I do there? I removed a couple of numbers after the decimal point. That is a much more insignificant value when the height of the thing has leapt to be more than 1,000 units high. And look at that. How can I deal with this problem? Can I always just make it a much more reasonable fraction? Like, that's a tiny fraction. Oh man, when you're rendering will it just never matter because this is considered in the resolution of the actual output, like a fraction of a pixel in quotes, is always fine, and I'm just doing something stupid here by making it so extreme. Okay, well, I do not like having to use this as a solution, but I suppose what it does sort of suggest is that that thing I had thought in the past about moving to doubles for everything maybe makes sense. But now I've made it even less, it's even closer, even more distant from that actual edge. I knew when I was doing this that I felt instinctively uncomfortable about it. I don't like just pushing things just away from the thing that I know will cause a problem. Particularly as I'm not that comfortable with floating point inaccuracy. Like, I don't even quite, I do understand what it means, but exactly how it relates to what I should expect in this context. And I need to, well, seeing as it's running, I will just this once run this again. It's doing 10 recursions of a single line. And say, what did I get? Yeah, 1079, the floor, which is always what I'd want. I'd want the floor of the value. I mean, I've given it a lot more leeway. They're taking away 3 decimal places. Okay. Well, I suppose that the thing... Oh, did I get to the end of saying moving to doubles might make sense? That was one thing I thought. And actually, OL is... I mean, this has just worked. So one thing I've been thinking is OW is an int, right? No, they're floats. That's fine. That's as it should be. I want them as floats, so that I'm representing the width and height as floats wherever the heck it is I'm doing it. So now the things that I want to change back for now are in draw curve gradient. In draw curve gradient, replacing the batteries in my mouse wheel made it almost usable. I want to remove that for now. And again, I'll do it this way because I think that what I've done is the, in quotes, solution to this problem for now. Now I'm going to go back to release mode. I'm going to hold my breath and run it again. And I'm going to try and do a bigger render. When I was toying with it afterwards, watching it crash and also seeing how I could run it without it crashing, I could see that I had found, well, that it was I think a good plan, basically, to implement the gradient rendering. So what are some things about gradient rendering that I can try and... Okay, well, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and make a cloud which covers much of the screen, like this. I'll bump it up to 5 recursions, and I'll bump it all the way up to 6 and watch the frame rate. Yeah, it's still getting good frame rate, really, because it's not that many segments. But I will take it back down just now. I will render it as a gradient, like this. Now I know from some of the tests I did the other day that 500 is far too low. I'll start with 500 though, for what it's worth. I won't do 10 recursions because that's a lot. And again, like I say, I am doubling the length of my render time when I render with the video capture on. This, in theory, should render now. Like, I really just... Let me see. Have I got everything set up here? 8 recursions, 1 frame, I'm rendering just static. This should previously have crashed it. I'll save it as a recursor image. That's it. Less than a tenth of a second. I don't think 8 recursions was very stressful for it. And it didn't crash. And the output is extremely dim. Okay, well, for that I'm going to bump up the recursions. And I will bump it up to 10. I'll bump it up to 9, because it will take 5 times longer than it did last time. Or whatever. Yes, I do. Yeah, nearly 5 times longer, is that right? Nearly, 4 and a bit maybe. More intense, yeah. But again, instantly I am starting to see the benefits of the gradient rendering, which is that actually individual lines do begin. I still can see some, I suppose. I'm not surprised I can see some. Anyway, let me just bump it up again. 10 recursions. This should take 5 times longer again, so 2.5 seconds or something. Oh, 1.57. Still pretty quick. I suppose I'm not thinking about, yeah, look at it. This is... I mean, the other thing that I can do is I can lower this, so I have much more control now to 250. Like that's... When I make it 250, it's start of... how do I express it? 255 is the maximum number of overlaps that it would have previously using just an OpenGL render. Now there's a problem with this. I can tell there is. It actually looks quite beautiful the way this is emerging, but... Well, no, maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm just still overestimating by a long way. Take that down to 100. Give me it again. Yeah, and the yellow starts to emerge. It is not a problem. It's just I have a grainy one here, and I can see, it's really, really interesting to me. So now there are only 100 gradations between the bottom and the top, and you can see the graininess emerge, or I can see a graininess emerge. If I bump this up to 11, and take this down, or bump this up to 500 again, I need to implement using return to confirm that, and just have another go. This will take, again, should be about 5 times longer again, maybe 7 seconds. Nah, it does fine. 5 seconds for 11 recursions. Yeah, and it's smoothed out again. I still am overestimating. I think I can reduce that down from 500. Now I am really just toying out. I'm getting pleased by the fact this is working, even though I'm not delighted by the way in which it's working, the way in which I've made it work. But I think that what I'm going to do is I'm not going to make this a long video. I'm pleased to have sort of solved that problem, and I might set up an animation to render. I am much, much more pleased with this. I love the way this is beginning to pick out all of these tiny sort of flocculent, if that's the word, little details. I am going to change my gradient. I want to make it more orange, kind of. Oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. This is a thing I must take care of. I can't... I'll speak about this. I have to OK first, then apply. Now let me have a little look at that image that I got last time again. Because to me this is starting to saturate. Oops, I just changed that. Did I? I don't know what I did there. Well, it's starting to saturate, which means I could boost this maybe to 500. Did I do something? I added a point, didn't I? I added a point without quite realising it. This didn't dive, but this is going to increase by a factor of 10 or something. I'm not quite figuring that out as I sit here, but yeah, okay. I did add a point. I will have to improve this moment. As you can see, look at that, took 31 seconds to render, and I have a feeling it's going to be super saturated. Yeah, but interesting. It is saturated. So without messing around with anything else, I'll reduce the recursions by 1, and I'll go for it again. So it should take like a... I missed the point readout there. Yeah, took a fraction of it. Well, still a while, but lovely. Right. That still took how long to render? That was... I have to get a total readout, but kind of about 8 seconds. So I could render that as an animation. I think I prefer dark purple as a background. I think this could probably be a bit more red than it is. I could boost that to be just a little bit whiter. And I think I'll keep it at that. I'll do a quick check. I could also, I think one of the things I like about this is that I can get faster renders by lowering the recursions and sort of increasing the sensitivity. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to try and render an animation. I'm very pleased with the way this looks now. It's going off the sides, like actually, maybe I'm not quite doing it intense enough a test. Let me just try and render that. I've really no idea. Everything's gone, because I can see instinctively everything is more spaced out. There are going to be fewer overlaps, and so it's going to be a dimmer image. Yeah, but that's it still looks really good the way it's sort of, I don't know, like a cloud of interstellar gas or something. But it's not crashing. So I will make an animation here. I'll just keep the setup as it is for the sake of testing. First off, I'm going to come out. I need to make a flag somewhere where I turn on and off debug writing. For now, what I don't want is for it to do all this debug writing. Man, this is a pain. Local db bool equals false. And I'm just going to stick it in here. Because what I don't want is it producing that output log every time. Because I think I think I've come across in the past that big long debug log actually starting to slow it down, although it might just be with the debugger running that happens. But for the time being, if I'm going to render a couple of hundred frames, I don't want this maybe. I don't want the risk of it maybe. And I think that those are the only things that it's printing out moment to moment, or, you know, render to render, or frame to frame, whatever. So I have my setup. It shouldn't be giving any debug information. I will check it. The ugliest part of this now, my code, is the point where it comes to rendering, as I just was on the verge of talking about there. It just comes to a complete halt, and that's no good. This is an application that's written in the style of a 90s video game where the logic is locked to the frame rate. It's the way I've ended up getting used to writing programs. It's no good, but still kind of enjoy it. An animation drawn to this will take a while. Look at that, how long that took. Is the debugger definitely off? Yep. And how does it look? It should have basically the same image as I got before. That is it. Okay. So I'm going to set up an animation to render, and I'm going to make it like I don't know, let's say that took 5 seconds. If I set 500 frames, that is going to be 2,500 seconds. 2,500 divided by 60. 45 minutes. And then it will be a while to render the actual video. So I won't. I'll make it 250 frames. And it's going to be a simple animation. Like it's going to do this sort of thing. I'm going to insert a loop after and a loop after. I'm going to move it to there. I'm going to see that that will be the animation it does. I will render 250 frames. I'll have it loop 5 times in the video. 10 recursions. Draw mode gradient with this gradient. High 500, which yeah, I'll leave it at that. Let me see though, this doesn't get a lot more or less overlappy over the course of its animation. I think I'm going to lower it a bit. I will make it 400 and I'll do a quick check. This is going to be a while to render. I have some things I have to do this morning, so let me see how it looked. Bit brighter, with some little sharper edges. That's better. I probably could get away with going lower again, actually. And because I am going to set this, I'm going to set it off to work for an hour or two, so I may as well see what a reasonable sort of, for this particular setup, what a reasonable number of recursions and what the reasonable threshold is. It's still doing it. Yeah, I'll go with that. Again, just a few more details picked out, but still doesn't look too grainy. A little bit grainy, I suppose. The solution to that is more recursions, higher threshold, longer render. As it is, let's just see if I've got this all right. Seems crazy, but I'm just going to quit and come back in. And just because that's a way I know of saving the project. Well, I could also just use save project, but I want it to present me with this when I come in. Again, this is not my proudest bit of the code, so I have to just make sure that I have this definitely set up to work. Am I in main, products, windows, temp? Oh look, I've got all this junk in here. That would have been, probably wouldn't have been the end of the world. But I will get rid of it. And that didn't get rid of it, did it? You tricked me into thinking that backspace does the same as delete. Okay. These are things which will get sorted out in the future. But I'm ready to go. I will get a readout here just as it, and I'm reminded that just as it renders individual frames. and I can look at the individual frames in that temp directory. But there it goes, 00000.pong. Now, that's at half an hour exactly, just as I start to render that, so that's fine. I will stop recording, I'll leave that rendering, I'll go and do my other things, and in a little while I'll have a look at what the animation looks like.